Interesting discussion for today was I met with the head monk at the biggest temple in Sendai, at Rinnoji, and he has been studying since way before the earthquake and the tsunami the effect of non-native vegetation versus native vegetation forests on the environment in Japan. And he made some studies with a couple of people all around Japan about the effect, how effective forests were as breakwaters against the tsunami, and went into some of the hardest hit areas and examined what kind of vegetation was still left after the wave. And this is kind of what they came up with. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if it's directly applicable to what Architecture for Humanity is going to do in the future, but it's pretty interesting. So have a look. This is an illustration of what was happening until now. They basically planted these black pine tree forests up and down the coast of Japan to serve as breakwaters and also to block wind and stuff from typhoons. The problem is that black pine characteristically has really shallow root systems. So in this case, you can see this is the ocean, this is the black pine forest, and this is the city, right? In this case, when the water came through, it was strong enough that it actually just ripped all of the trees right out. And instead of serving as a breakwater, these trees actually ended up serving more as like weapons because they were pulled in and ended up, you'd see pictures of them the next day like going straight through people's windshields and in the middle of people's living rooms and stuff. So they didn't accomplish at all what they were supposed to. And then they weren't left to kind of break, to stop the stuff from being pulled out to sea when their water retreated. So when they went back into these really bad areas and found that a lot of trees that are native to this area, not the black pine, but a lot of native vegetation was still standing even after all of this, even after the violent tsunami. So they have a theory in the rebuilding that this should be part of the plan. Between the ocean and the cities, there should be these forests to serve as breakwaters, but the government should take a lot of care in selecting the trees that go into these forests, make them native. A lot of the native trees to this area characteristically have really deep root systems. So the theory is that when the next tsunami comes, which it will, that these forests with deep root systems will actually weaken the strength of the water that comes through before it gets to the town. And then when the water retreats, the forest will still be here to kind of stop the pull of all the debris and possibly people out into the water. So, and the next idea is the most interesting, I think, kind of deals with what to do with all the rubble, because there's a lot of it, and so they propose digging a hole and mixing a lot of the rubble with soil and kind of making like an artificial mound and doing that between the ocean and the towns. And on top of that, planting a lot of native vegetation, again with the deep root systems, to kind of create a double punch, a forest between the ocean and the town, which is good for any community, I think, and a mound made from all of the rubble to act as a second barrier between the tsunami and the town. Interesting. So yeah, have a think about that. Thank you for listening.